So the video you're about to watch is a bit choppy at certain parts. I didn't want to re-record the whole thing because it took me a long time to record, but in case you spot any choppiness, which you will, it's on my end, it's not on yours. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video. Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. In this video, we are going to be talking about getters and setters in JavaScript. Why are we talking about getters and setters, you ask? Well, I saw this video by James Quick about the event loop, and I highly recommend it if you want to know more about how JavaScript works. It's a really good video. But scrolling through the comments, which I don't often do, I just thought I'd try it. There's someone at the bottom who spoke about getters and setters, and I thought, that's actually a really good topic to talk about. So let's talk about it now. Essentially, getters and setters are a way for you to add some extra logic to an object property. It's not something I do that much. I don't ever use getters and setters, but it's an option in JavaScript, and it's good to know that they exist and how they work so that if you ever run into a situation where you think they're useful, you can go ahead and use them. So let's first explain what getting and setting is. And I've got this really simple object here called Lord of the Rings, and there are some characters with what they'll say, like hello, sup, and salutations. I'm not sure if this is actually what they'd say, but let's just go with it. So here, imagine if line 7 didn't exist, it was commented out, and we wanted to get this value. We'd run Lord of the Rings.Gandalf, and we're essentially getting the value that's inside this object property. Let's uncomment out line 7, and what this is doing is setting the Gandalf property. So we're setting it to yo. So if this wasn't here and we ran this, we would get salutations, but now this is here. It's now set this from salutations to yo, if that makes sense. So getting and setting. With that in mind, let's update this Lord of the Rings object to use getters and setters. Okay, so we've just done that. Now this object looks way more complicated than it did before. There are two functions in here, or methods, that contain the set and get keyword. What this is doing is it's getting the value that is stored in _Gandalf. At this moment in time, it's an empty string. And the reason that we've had to use _Gandalf and not just regular Gandalf, so without the underscore, is because regular Gandalf is being used here. So we have to use an underscore so there isn't a conflict in properties. Now, yes, if we wanted to, we could actually set the underscore property because there isn't a way to have a private property in a JavaScript object at this moment in time. But the underscore is a way for us developers to communicate to other developers that this is a private property. Now, I know there is a way to set private properties in classes, but we'll talk about that later on in this video. Okay, so we can get the value from _Gandalf, and to set it, we run this function which will get the argument value and assign it to this underscore value. Now, this value argument comes from here. So imagine this Gandalf is running a function and this value here is the argument. So this yo string will be passed into the _Gandalf, and that will be the new value of _Gandalf. So when we get it, we'll be getting this _Gandalf. I know it's really confusing, and if it doesn't make sense, feel free to go back and watch this video again. So now let's run this code. Cool, so we've just run it and it's console logged the value of yo, which is great. Let's add some more complex logic to our set function. So what we've just done is said if the value, so if the string that's passed into the set function here is either sup or hello, it will say Gandalf won't say that. So if we change this to sup and run this code again, instead of printing out whatever we've put here, it says Gandalf won't say that. So instead of printing out whatever we put here, it's ran this logic and returned this string instead. Now, of course, there are other ways you could do this. You could actually have a function to execute this logic, but this is one way of doing it. And if we wanted to, we could even set logic in the get method here. So we've got console log here to tell us that we're getting the value of this property. And if we comment out line 17 and ran the code, you'll see it just prints out the console log to say we're getting this value. And because there's an empty string, it doesn't return a value. Now, if I were to fill this value in with some text and then run the code, it first runs the console log and then runs our string. I hope that makes sense. If you're enjoying this so far, please go ahead and subscribe and also like this video so others can find it. Okay, let's move on to getters and setters in classes. And I've used Typescript for this just because it's easier to use classes in Typescript, in my opinion. So here you can see that we've put a hashtag in front of the Gandalf property, which actually makes it private. And if we want to validate how private this is, we can go ahead and console log the hashtag Gandalf, and you'll see it gives an error saying you can't access private properties. So the getter and setter methods in classes are very similar to getters and setters in objects. The only difference here is that you can't use the return keyword in a setter of a class. So for the same logic of checking if the string is sup or hello, I've had to do an if else. So this will just assign the hashtag Gandalf to the string based on this condition. So if we assign sup to Gandalf, so that's doing the setting, it should say Gandalf won't say that. And of course, we can also add some logic to the setter, the same way we did it for the object. We can comment out the setting here, and if we run the code again, it should just print out the console log with the string. And there we have it. I hope you found this useful and it's made sense. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to put them down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.